Hey guys, CDTVThaG here. The G of course stands for dyslexia, and today we're going to be reacting to the new album from Post Malone himself, Hollywood's Bleeding. I can't wait for the comparisons in the comments just because we have vaguely similar patchiness in our beards. Like legit, it's the exact same. We're both missing hair here and here. Me and Post Malone are basically identical at this point. Just like any album from an artist that I love, I am super excited to get into this one. Like, I've been waiting to hear this. It just came out, so I've been anticipating this, is what I'm trying to say. Now that I'm thinking about it, I only really got into Post Malone's music last year. It was very recent, and I know he only kind of came up in the last year, like properly into the mainstream. But I believe it was like last summer that I first listened to his music, and I remember the first time I heard Stoney. Super exciting story. I was washing the dishes, chose an album to listen to, and I put on Stoney, and I loved it. You know, I listened to it and I was like, man, every track on this, it kind of sounds like it has hit potential. And then, you know, later on that year, Beerbongs and Bentleys dropped, and on that album every song was a hit. I think even like statistically, if you look at the stats, every single song on that album was like super huge. This man can make hit songs without even trying. And the thing is though, it's not just like really mechanical hit songs. There's a lot of heart put into them. And who knows what we're gonna get on this one. The album cover itself looks a lot darker than the one for Beerbongs and Bentleys or Stoney. And I'm assuming that'll reflect the music that's on here. Although, to be fair, the track Sunflower is on here, which I find a bit odd because, I mean, does that album cover scream Sunflower to you? But I'm not gonna complain about it. I really like the song, and at the end of the day, it might fit in on here. So, 17 tracks, heard about 4 of them. Track number 1, the title track, Hollywood's Bleeding. Definitely already has a darker sound to it. Trying to chase a feeling, but we'll never feel it. Riding on our last train home. You say you wanna see me, but you can't right now. You never took the time to get to know me. Man, just one thing I've noticed is I really liked Stoney on my first listen, but his vocals since then, man, they've just went to the next level. They've really improved. Just his like range and the strength of his vocals has gotten so much better. Yeah, Hollywood is bleeding, but we call it home. Outside the winter sky. Okay. God, man. Oh my God. Well, that was a strong opener. I could say that for sure. Everything about that, the vocals, the progression of the song, it was so hard hitting. And he's definitely setting this up to be a more moody album and something that has definitely got a darker vibe to it. I feel like it's the song that I'm gonna picture when I picture the cover of this album, which makes sense as it's the title track, but it pretty much sets the tone of that perfectly because it's got this whole vibe of like looking up at the moonlight, and he mentions vampires at the start, so it's got this very gothic atmosphere to it. There's actually some really hard-hitting lines on here. A lot of this does seem to be influenced by, you know, being surrounded by people that are quite snaky, but also, you know, people coping with that by using drugs as a coping mechanism. And again, just his vocals, man. Oh my God, they hit me. Track number 2, let's move on to that. I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, but I think it's Saint-Tropez.
Saint-Tropez.
J. Cole had a song called this as well. I remember that.
Such a long time. Ooh, this shit bliss, I'm so rich.
Okay, so we're going a bit more flexy on the second track. In relation to that lyric, I've never understood buying really expensive boxers. I mean, I guess they probably do feel nice. Why are you gonna flex with something that people can't see you flexing?
The roof go down when I switch.
He's hitting the ad-libs on this one.
I'm in Saint-Tropez, I had a check wrist. I just bought my cut, I know necklace. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
We're getting those counting bars.
No matter what the price is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Shit, I'm checking off my bucket list.
Nice.
Such a long time. I'm in Saint-Tropez, I had to check wrist.
I definitely took it to a bit of a lighter place with that song. That was just a track of Post Malone basically saying, my life is great right now. This is him talking about on his good days, how he's feeling. It's always good to balance it out a bit. Like I said, the first track was super intense. So I think it's a good idea to put something that it does have a bit more of a fun energy to it as the next track. Saying that though, it still has a very kind of moody vibe to it because it's Post Malone. His songs pretty much mostly have this moody atmosphere to them. That one thing that I pointed out, the counting bars in verse 2 where he was going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, he actually made that work because, you know, he used it a couple of times and he tied it into a different thing with the following line each time. Nice way to work that into the song. That was a really good song and I loved it again. So let's move on to track number 3. This is one that I was really interested to hear when I saw the track list because it has a DaBaby feature on it. Track number 3, Enemies featuring DaBaby. Okay, I can already hear DaBaby over this beat.
I told her fuck that. She look at me like she's surprised. Packing the post, and I'm on Malone. The box at the door to go for 35.
Man, I swear, DaBaby is one of those artists for me that at the moment, it might get old soon, but at the moment he can just get away with using basically one flow on every single song. It always works just because of the energy he has.
And I know you think that I ain't see it. And I know your bitch ain't got a car, don't make me go and buy your bitch a little pre. Only held me down when you wanted me to drown. Every time that let me
His goddamn voice, man. Beautiful man, Posty. Beautiful. 3 tracks in, and I've loved every single one so far. This was an interesting one because there was a bit of like a contrast between the lyrics and the sound of the song here because I sounded very happy with the instrumental that I had. But Post Malone's subject matter was about friends that had turned into his enemies. That's literally what he says on the hook. But I guess it makes sense actually in a way having a happier vibe to it because at the end of his verse he does say that he's relieved that these type of people are out of his life. So maybe that's where the happier vibe of it comes from. Oh, these friends turned to enemies, but that's fine because if they're gonna do that, I don't want them in my life. So it makes sense now that I think about it. Man, there's some aspects of being a popular musician that just sound like they suck. Everyone seems to lose friends when they blow up or be surrounded with fake friends. So Enemies, we got another bop. That's 3 bops so far. 3 out of 3 bops. I mean, the first one was like a intense, sad bop, but a bop nonetheless. So let's move on to track number 4, back to the solo tracks, Allergic. Produced by Brian Lee, isn't that Rice Gum's real name?
So sad but true.
Okay. I don't necessarily love the sound of this track because this kind of genre isn't really for me, but his vocals are still hitting me, man. Allergic wasn't a bad song by any means, and Post Malone still killed it with his vocals. They were so smooth on here. Like I've said before, I'm no good with other genres because I don't really listen to any other genres outside of rap, you know, with the exception of a few artists. So I want to say it's got an indie rock influence to it. Is that right? But yeah, that's not something that I'm necessarily a fan of. Wasn't feeling that track as much as the other ones on here, but that's literally just because the genre that it's in doesn't really appeal to me. It's always good to have variety on your album, you know? I think that's one of the things that makes Post Malone one of the biggest artists in the world right now. There is something for everyone on his projects. Well, I didn't like this track. I know there's loads of people that will. Now on to track number 5, 1,000 Bad Times.
Say you needed a ride, but you wanted my car. Without a face, girl, you wouldn't get far. You know I'm a star. You say you don't know me, but I know that's far. I'll pay the price, girl, cause I can take anything that you give me. It's gonna take a lot to kill me, bitch. Yeah, I know just what to do. Every time you fuck me over, I come back to you. So thank you for the grave, but I needed me a place to sleep. It's all the same to me. It's all
Post Malone with the relationship song here, one of the things that he does best. But this one had an interesting twist to it. It's about him making things harder for himself and liking these things that are difficult, being attracted to women that make things difficult for him. Of course, at the end of the second verse, he said, but this is what I chose. It's the law of attraction. Obviously, opposites attract. I guess that's the whole theme of this song. Why is there a moth? Can you go away? Bro, I'm trying to react to an album here. Now we're going on to track number 6. Like I said, I have heard this track once before. It's called Circles. I like the track. It's another one that had more of that kind of rock vibe to it. Not one of my absolute favorites. Not something I'm going to listen to all the time, but I did enjoy the song. Those drums, man, and the bass and everything, it hits you. Yeah, that one was even better the second time. Even better the second time. Man, I still remember the first time I heard Post Malone. Me and my friends, we watched the White Iverson video together, and I remember everyone was just like,
that's gonna be his one-hit song and that's gonna be it over.
Because he did seem like such a kind of meme one-hit wonder artist when he first dropped White Iverson. I could have never pictured that he would become this guy. I think there was like one guy at my school who was like, oh no, I've dug into a lot of his stuff and he's actually a really good artist. He can, you know, he can sing and everything like that. And I was like, yeah, sure. Whatever. Now we're here. I'm bumping his album and I'm loving it. I have very little to complain about so far on this. So let's move on to the next one. This one I was quite interested again when I saw the features for it. Track number 7, Die For Me, featuring Halsey and Future. I do hope it is better than Future's verse on the Congratulations remix.
Wake up every morning and I can take the sky. Said you take a bullet, told me you would die for me. I had a really bad feeling you've been lying to me. Got no patience no more, been waiting too long. You hid that shit away and I was the last one to know. Remember when you got my ass arrested? At least when I was in jail I got some rested. Ooh,
that reminded me of the lyrics on 1,000 Bad Times.
wasn't on the best of terms, girl, I was trying. I did everything to reach out to you.
There's the high-pitched vocals. Is that Future doing the hook now? He sounds surprisingly like Post when he's doing the hook. Alright, Post Malone and Halsey singing together now. It's interesting. For one of the more, you know, rap style songs on the album, kind of like a poppy rap style of song, it took a while for me to get into it, but the more it went on, it started connecting with me more and more. But at the start, I was feeling a little bit like iffy on it. But his verse in here was nice. It kind of alluded back to the stuff he referenced on 1,000 Bad Times, almost kind of sarcastically taking the best out of a bad situation. Future was actually pretty great on here. When he was hitting those high-pitched vocals, it definitely sounded a lot better than most of the other times that Future has done that. It actually, you know, his voice wasn't cracking like crazy on here, which I was fine with. Then Halsey, I've never really listened to her music because, again, it's not the genre for me, but her singing was really nice on here too. I think she might be alluding to, you know, her relationship with G-Eazy on here. And then it kind of, you know, built up all the way to this big finale at the end with both Post Malone and Halsey doing the hook together, which gave it this really powerful sound. The more that one went on, the more it grew on me. Another really solid song. Bops. Non-stop bops. Let's move on to track number 8. Another one with 2 features on it. And again, I'm assuming a more rap-centric track. It's On The Road featuring Meek Mill and Lil Baby, because Lil Baby is just everywhere now. Lil Baby is appearing almost more than Gunna at this point.
Cause I've been on the road, been on the road. Quit acting like you been with me this whole time. I got so many hits, can't remember them all. While I'm taking the shit, look at the plaques on the wall. Y'all just sit back, get your kid.
Interesting way to flex. Okay, back to that topic of fake friends.
Leave when I lose and pop back up soon as I win. You ain't my day one and I know you not my friend. I seen the money over power that love and turn it thin.
Alright, verse from Meek Mill. I mean, the topic of fake friends is nothing new to rappers, so the verse did seem kind of like a standard rap feature verse.
We supposed to be grown, but yet you still acting childish. I can get on a jet alone, I don't need no extra baggage. This shit turn into a savage, I got bags in my neck. She say I'm a dog, but it takes one to know one. Been going hard, been by myself, I don't need no love. Cause
Quite like Lil Baby's verse on here. Okay, pretty good one. It's just kind of interesting to me how this is, again, the most rap-focused song on this project so far, and it's probably one of the ones that's kind of stood out to me the least. Meek Mill's verse, it felt like a bunch of just generic, you weren't there when I was broke, now you're here when I'm rich type of bars, because that is such a popular subject in rap music that I feel like I've heard almost every line there is to hear about fake friends. And Meek's just felt like kind of the most standard ones, back to back. Yeah, it's a topic we heard a lot about, and I don't think the song necessarily did anything too different with that topic. That's not to say it's a bad song, it's just one of the ones that I feel like I'd be more kind of critical about. It still sounded good, the features did sound nice, no one ruined the song or anything like that, just didn't stand out to me as much. So, track number 9. Another one with a couple interesting features on it. Ones that I'm really interested to see how they blend. We've got Post Malone, Travis Scott, and Ozzy Osbourne with Take What You Want. Now that I think about it, I don't think I've listened to any songs with Ozzy Osbourne on them.
You showed your tongue and it was forked in two. Your venom was lethal.
Nice.
I almost believed you.
That was a cool way of saying that someone's a snake.
Tell you what you need from me. Tell you what you want. So those scars you do make change.
Travis.
I brought up dinner, this coupe only made for two. To live out the season. You know what I'm saying? Crack it out back. Give me that, pay that.
Ooh. Even if I don't listen to rock, man, that shit sounds good. Yeah. Whew. That was another one just like Die For Me, where I was a bit iffy about it at first, was a bit unsure about it, and then towards the end, man, it just absorbed me right into it. Like I said before, I'm not a huge fan of rock. Rock just doesn't appeal to me. Rock, heavy metal, all this kind of stuff, it's just not my type of thing. But hearing that instrumental at the end, it was actually pretty crazy, and I really liked how it sounded. It just, the way it built up and everything, and the way it just kind of went into this crescendo before the track ended. Shit was beautiful, man. Travis Scott came through and had a really nice part on this song, actually. And your boy Posty coming through with those heartbroken but strong vocals. So yeah, topic-wise, it's not necessarily a change, but man, that song just sucked me in towards the end. I actually really enjoyed that one. Track number 10, I'm Gonna Be.
I rock this shit, but not for long. Then I go copping out the one. So I'm gonna be what I want, when I want, when I want. Yeah. I'm gonna do what I want, when I want, when I want.
Back to more of the positive vibes again.
Can you feel it? I'm gonna be what I want, when I want, when I want. Yeah. Rich and new, my watch, $1,000 Crocs.
$1,000 Crocs? Did they even exist? There's Balenciaga Crocs? Really? I'm sorry, I'm really liking the song, but I need to look this up. What are they? Ah, I like Balenciaga shoes, but those look horrendous. I knew that on this album a line about $1,000 Crocs would catch me off guard.
Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
Song put a smile on my face, man. It was something nice to put in that was a break from the moodier, sad music on here, which was great, but it's always good to break that up to keep the album moving forward. It had a very simple message to it, but it does put a smile on my face, and it does make me feel happy, so it's all I can ask for from a song like this. Number 11, we got Staring at the Sun featuring SZA. SZA's got a beautiful voice, so let's hear what they do together here. Oh, it's already kind of giving me All the Stars vibes, which, you know, SZA and Kendrick.
But girl, what I can't promise is I'll let you down. If you keep staring at the sun, you won't see what you have become. This can't be. I try to rewind to get reminded the time that we've been nobody. Can't get too close, now you won't see what you have become. This can't be.
I like how all the features so far have been like really involved with the songs, rather than just being there. Huh. It makes sense why Sunflower is on here now, because this song almost feels like it goes hand in hand with that one. I know it comes before Sunflower on the album, but I almost feel like this is Sunflower Part 2. It almost feels like the song after the relationship in Sunflower went wrong or something like that. The singing on it was great because it was Post Malone and SZA. Really, really nice to listen to. But nothing that stood out to me is too crazy. Not one of my favourites on the album, but still a pretty damn good song. The track number 12, of course I've heard this one, with Sway Lee, Sunflower. Let's get into it. Sway Lee as well, man. I never thought Sway Lee would be singing like this way back in the Shrimp Life 1 days. Sway Lee and Post Malone came a long way. I have to say, I love both parts of this song, but Sway is definitely my favorite, man.
I know you're scared of the unknown. You don't wanna be alone.
Like I said, just such an enjoyable song. Makes me happy to listen to. So, up next, we have track number 13, and it's called Internet. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what this one's gonna cover.
I just seen little mama on Instagram and she flashing. Don't care about your puppy, just that ass and them brasses. The lifestyle we live is just too dangerous. Paranoid since I've been leaking my shit. Wonder if it'll come out on the web and I can't help all these bitches on my dick. I'll probably be last to know, cause I don't get on the internet no more.
Ooh. Oh, why does this have... This has such a Kanye feeling to it. I'm getting Runaway vibes from this. Interesting little track. That was a short one. Quite enjoyed that one, and I guess the message is pretty cool, but honestly, man, I'm starting to think people were talking about how bad the internet and social media is so much that it actually is not that bad. It doesn't feel that bad anymore. I can understand wanting to avoid social media, like, I get it, but I feel like it's almost demonized too much. But then again, I'm not Post Malone, you know, I don't have millions of people that will say stuff on the internet about me, whether that's positive or negative, so I imagine that can kind of, you know, mess with your perception of it a lot. I do like what he said. He covered something that was, you know, quite specific to him being an artist, saying that if any of his stuff gets leaked, you know, it's going to get leaked onto the internet, so that could be one of the reasons why he just hates it. Really liked how it sounded. It's just, I think this whole kind of the internet is a terrible place narrative has pretty much went as far as it can go, but I like the way the song sounded. So let's move on to song number 14. I have heard this one. It was one of the singles released from it. Goodbyes, featuring Young Thug.
I'm drinking again, 80 proof in my veins and my feet.
There he's hitting the Post Malone GOAT vocals. You know, in his voice like wavers. I don't know how he does that, man.
Can you not turn off the TV? I'm watching it fight. I played it garage.
That should not sound nice, but it really does. Thug, you madman. Another sad boy banger. Oh god, there's only 2 more tracks left that I haven't heard on this project. I'm just getting like so absorbed into the album that I didn't even keep track of where we were actually at in the project, in a good way. Young Thug is definitely my favorite part of that track. It's weird because I didn't really love the way he did the high-pitched vocals on The London, his song, but on this track, I don't know, it just works with the kind of vibe that this song has. And that's the thing with Young Thug for me, his vocals are so crazy and wild that he can definitely be very hit or miss for me, but on this song, he hit. So, let's go on to the next one, the second last track that I haven't heard on this project. Track number 15, Myself.
It's what it is. It's how I live. All the places I've been. Oh, let's not give a fuck till. Give it a fuck has no meaning.
Another little bit of a happy one. Don't even have a whole lot to say about it. I just really enjoyed how this one sounded again. So, now going into the last track that I have not heard on this project. Track number 16, I Know.
Don't you know that I'm more than a come up? You act up and then act like it's nothing. Added to a science, you were so precise. See it in your eyes, saw you in the light. Somehow, mommy, I still want you. Shit could never be like this. I know. Stop thinking you're in my plans. 100 times you blew another chance. I love will never be another. You're just a devil undercover. I know you can never be my bitch. Shit could never be like this.
Not too bad, not too bad. Again, it's another one that kind of reminded me of 1,000 Bad Times, although it went somewhere slightly different with it. 1,000 Bad Times was talking about, you know, how he kept coming back to a girl, or wanted to keep going back to a girl anyway, even though he knew it was bad for him. And on this track, he has a similar sentiment, saying, somehow I still want you, kill me softly, your hold on me is something I can't explain. But then in the chorus, he kind of goes a different direction with it and says, you know what, but I could never be with you. You know, it's him realizing that even if he's attracted to her for some reason he can't explain, he knows that it's a bad idea. And he's just not going to get into that, not going to hurt himself like that again. So it's almost like 1,000 Bad Times, but with a happier ending, you know? I guess a kind of better outlook on that, him moving on from what he was talking about on there. Nice way to close it out, kind of comes around. Let's jump into the final track on the album. Obviously I've heard this one, I think this was the first one released from this. Track number 17, Wow.
Now it's everybody flocking in a decoy.
I almost feel like this song feels more like a kind of bonus track on this album. I know it was a good closer to it.
It's a moment when I show up and I'm saying wow.
And there we go, that's the end of Hollywood's Bleeding. Interesting thing about that song, about Wow, I didn't like it the first couple of times I heard it. I just listened to it and I was like, this is okay, but it feels like there's not a whole lot going on. It feels like a bit of a dead song in a sense. It's just Post Malone going off over this kind of, over these 808s, and that's pretty much it. There's no real melody to it. But then I watched the music video for it with some of my friends, and the song just clicked with me. I don't know what it was, but the music video for this song changed my entire perception of it, and I love it now. The music video just made the song feel a whole lot more fun than what I was getting from listening to it at first. So if there's a song you don't like and it has a music video, watch it. It might change how you feel about it. That's what happened with Wow for me. Now that it's over, let's get into my overall thoughts on Hollywood's Bleeding by Post Malone. It's hard to say how I would compare this to his other projects based off of my first listen. In my mind right now, I think I did like Beerbongs and Bentleys a bit more. I definitely think there was more tracks I got off of that one, but this is definitely better than Stoney for me, for sure. This is definitely close to Beerbongs and Bentleys, I feel like. This one definitely had a darker atmosphere to it, although there was quite a few light-hearted tracks peppered throughout it. Let's run through my favourite songs and least favourite songs like we always do at the end of these album reactions. Favourite songs on this one. I'd definitely say the first three have to be on there: Hollywood's Bleeding, Saint-Tropez, and Enemies. That was just a great way to open this one up. Circles, would I put Die For Me on there? I think it grew on me enough to the point that I put Die For Me on there. Take What You Want, that song, by the end of it, I was just fully into that one. Sunflower remains a bop, that's on my favorites. I think I'll say that's it right now for my favorites. So 7 tracks that I chose as my favorites from a 17-track album. That's pretty damn good. Least favorite songs on this project for me were Allergic, just because even though the song wasn't bad by any means, the vibe of it, the genre of it just wasn't for me. I'm not sure, I kind of want to say On The Road. And again, my least favorites on here, it's not me saying they're bad songs, they're just the ones I enjoyed the least. And I'd probably say Myself as well. You know, that one, it was good again, but it just didn't hit me all that much. So that's it, 3 least favorite tracks, and honestly, they're not even that bad. I think my absolute favorite here has to be Hollywood's Bleeding though, because man, the vocals on it were super intense and everything. I definitely like the tracks that had that moody, intense atmosphere to them. And at the end of the day, it's a Post Malone album that I like for the reasons that I like Post Malone albums. Even if he says he's not trying to do it, pretty much every song on here sounds like it could be a hit. And again, this is going to be one that just gets a ridiculous amount of streams on every single song. It's going to do crazy first week numbers, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Post Malone definitely went a bit darker here, as is suggested by the cover. Perhaps not as dark as the cover would suggest. Like, that suggests a really moody, dark album for the whole thing. This whole Hollywood's Bleeding idea really seems to come from this concept of fake friends, fake people in general. When he was talking about relationships on here, most of the focus was on how that person was fake towards them, and that's what made things fall apart. When he's talking about friends on here, it's about how they were fake. When you think about it, it is a pretty repetitive album in terms of its subject matter, but the sound of the tracks was different enough for me personally that, you know, each one still has its own unique identity, and that's one of the main things that I want and I like from a rap album, when I can look at it. Well, not a rap album, just an album in general, because this isn't exactly a rap album. But, you know, I can look at it, look at a song, and the moment that I look at it, I hear that song in my head. Would I say this is one of my favorite albums of the year so far? I'm not 100% sure. I don't think so, because I don't really think it was an album that goes like above and beyond and does anything super creative or super unique with it, but I do still think it was pretty damn great and very enjoyable, and that's all I want from Post. So that is what I think of Hollywood's Bleeding by Post Malone. What do you guys think about this one? Let me know down in the comments below. I would really appreciate you leaving a like on the video, because of course that always helps out, and subscribing if you haven't done so already, and want to see more reactions similar to this, because we're on the road to 100k. That is all I got to say for today, guys. Definitely leaving this one pretty happy. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one, and this is CDTVThaG signing out.